Welcome back, everybody. The Our Cricket Podcast. My name's Dan. I've got Joe as usual, and this week, for the first time actually as a guest on the podcast, the first guest ever on this podcast as well, West Indies Test wicketkeeper Josh Silva, who joins us live on a boat. How are you?
I'm really good, mate. Thank you for having me. I didn't know I was the first guest, so I'll try to be as good as possible to set a high standard.
Hey, the bar is low, Josh. The bar is low. All we usually do is talk about club cricket and fantasy cricket. Joe's been whacking runs in the Charlotte Edwards Cup. I think that probably needs a mention before we get into the Josh De Silva chat. But coming out quite nicely, Joe, at the minute, hey?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I feel like I've been getting a little bit of a nosebleed opening the batting. You know, first kind of chance and opportunity I've ever had doing it. But it's been a good start. A bit nicer now after we got the win yesterday over the Vipers, so we're on the board, which is always good. But yeah, I've been loving it. It's 2 out in the power play, like it's great. Just try and whack it, don't you? Might need to get a few nuggets off of Josh about how he goes about hitting some boundaries though. So I could do with some more, I think. But the side screen hitting's going well.
That sounds like the first question to throw to Josh De Silva, then, doesn't it?
Wrong person to ask how to hit boundaries.
Aren't you? You're up top in the CPL, aren't you? Or you have been?
I have been, yeah. My strike rate, I think my overall strike is like 110, so it hasn't been really good. I'm just, once the power play is done, like I don't feature. I'm just, if somebody gets out in the power play, I'll get in. But other than that, yeah, I'm specialist wicketkeeper in the T20 stuff.
Maybe I'm the better person to ask then, Joe. I mean, who'd have thought it? Who'd have thought it?
You have been getting a lot of advice, I see, on your channels, Dan, about, you know, your technique and how you're going to go about improving that. And the road to 100 is well and truly on. So I can tap into the brains of both of you, I'm sure. We're all in it together.
Yeah, I think so.
I've yet to convert. But it's early days still in this series. The second episode of that will come out on Thursday. Played actually at quite a nice place, which makes a rarity for me. Speaking early days, let's start with early days for Josh De Silva. Talk about little Josh. Oh, no, actually, no, that sounds like a euphemism, doesn't it? Don't talk about little Josh. Talk about young Josh. Talk about Josh from years ago. What made you want to be a cricketer?
Funny or not, I never really wanted to be a cricketer. I wanted to be a football player. I love both sports growing up, but like when I got into secondary school is when I actually started to play cricket, hardball cricket. That is, I would play in my backyard every now and then with my neighbors. But I was always a football. I love football. I probably still love football. Don't tell anyone. But I just decided to try it, and then I fell in love with both sports. Played both sports throughout school, and eventually I had to choose one, and I weighed the options of how many people make it in Trinidad in football and how many people make it in cricket, and it was 1,000 to 1. So I chose cricket, and thankfully it gave me some sort of success so far. So
Man United are missing out on someone half decent.
Yeah, I don't think I could help them though.
Okay, well, I mean, to be honest with you, yeah, cricket's not always that high on the list of people's priorities when they're growing up, and probably a lot of kids in the UK would probably resonate with that. To be fair, that kind of cricket falls down the list of options. So it's interesting. You could have been, who would have been? Just like Trinidad footballers. All I can think of is Dwight York.
We had Dwight York, Russell Atterby, Stern John. We had a guy from England called Chris Birchall. His parents or his mum was from Trinidad, so he represented us for us in the only time we went to the World Cup, which was in 2006. And yeah, I don't know if you remember when we played England in the 2006 World Cup. Peter Crouch pulled one of our guys' hair, and I think he scored a goal. His Brent Sancho, he had a ras, and Crouch jumped up, pulled his hair, and headed into the back of the net. And that was we hated Peter Crouch ever since.
Why did he need an advantage to jump higher? He's like the tallest bloke that's ever played for England.
Exactly, we all want to know, but I guess he won't. I don't know. We don't like him.
So it sounds like football was obviously quite prominent in the early days. So, like, were there any role models from a cricket perspective that you looked up to from growing up in Trinidad? Obviously, you said
Yeah,
you were playing a lot of football and not
yeah,
as much cricket.
yeah. I definitely play a lot more football than cricket. When I was before Form One, so my dad would sneak me into the Oval to go and watch some Test matches. I remember going to watch Australia, West Indies, England, West Indies. Him and my aunt would sneak me in behind their back, and get into the stands. And I've seen Gilchrist, I've seen Michael Clark from young. I've seen all of them. But I'll have to say one of my biggest role models would have to be Brian Lara. Growing up, the Prince of Port of Spain. So, yeah, seeing him, I still remember watching his 400 on TV, and it was something remarkable. I would love to do what he did. Hopefully, one day I gain enough patience to bat that long. Um, but yeah, Brad Haddon was one for wicketkeeping growing up. Dinesh Ramdin, of course, probably, in my opinion, one of the best glove men to ever play the game. But yeah, those are some of the people I looked up to when I was growing up.
Blessed with options in Trinidad, and I mean it's
Yeah.
not that big of a surprise that growing up in Trinidad, Brian Lara would have been one of your icons. I mean, we're going to talk about that Test match in Brisbane a little bit later on in the podcast, but he was on commentary, wasn't he, that day in
Yeah,
Australia?
yeah.
And he doesn't normally kind of make commentary appearances, and kind of showed up for kind of the hottest ticket in town that day. But we'll save it. We'll save it, and we'll go to New Zealand instead, because that's where you made your Test debut 4 years ago now, in 2020.
Was it that long? Wow, yeah.
You're an old man now, Josh.
I am going to be 26 in a month. Jeez.
Because you came across to the UK, didn't you, as a in the squad for the
Yeah.
Test tour, and Dowrich, if I remember rightly, got a cricket ball in the mouth, I think, down at Southampton, and you came in as a replacement,
Yeah,
didn't
in
you?
Manchester, yeah.
Was it Manchester? Was it? Okay,
Manchester. The third test it was, yeah.
my geography's all wrong. But yeah, that Test debut in New Zealand, that's something you must have been working for a long time to kind of get that nod. Must have been pretty cool, hey?
It was. It didn't feel like a long time because I made my test debut in 2020 and I only started professional first class cricket in 2018. So a lot of hard work went in probably before that. And then when I got there, I think it was more of just trying to show that I deserved to be at that first class level. And it was in my second season. It was the COVID, when COVID hit, it shortened the season, but I ended with, I think it was the third or fourth highest runs in that league at that time. And then so England, I was taken to England as a reserve wicketkeeper because we had to take reserves for just in case of COVID and all of those. So, but in the warm-up games in England, I scored 50 not out and then 130 not out. So it kind of showed them that I could bat for long and I'm probably somebody they could look at. I did it opening the batting as well. So I guess I gave them two things to look at that time. So I wasn't really expecting to go to New Zealand, but there was a A-team tour as well as that test tour was going on. So I was lucky enough to get into that. And yeah, it just so happened that an opportunity presented itself in England. I got to keep for a little bit, and then in New Zealand I got an opportunity to make my test debut. And yeah, probably one of the most memorable moments of my career so far.
Answers the next question quite well, doesn't it, Joe? That
We mentioned that we're going to obviously bring up that Test match in Australia in a little bit, but you just mentioned there that obviously your debut being the most, like, one of the most memorable things. Would you say that was at the top of your kind of hierarchy of cricketing memories?
I have three, so that's definitely one of them. I'll probably put that at number three. My Test 100 against England would be at number two, and beating Australia in the Gabba for the first time in over 20-something years, I think that has to be at number one. What we did was special, and for us especially, was something that we believed we could do it, but I don't think anybody believed we can do it. So for us, it was to prove people wrong, and there were a few people saying that we're a weakened team, we're a waste of time, I can't remember what they said, but we used that as motivation to just kind of just beat Australia. Like, who could say they beat Australia? Many people have played Test cricket and can't say they did it. So I'm proud to say that I can, when I have my kids and grandkids, I can say I beat Australia with West Indies. So yeah, that's definitely number one.
Should we keep talking about that now? Seems like a good
I
place
think so.
just to kind of stay, doesn't it? I rewatched the kind of the 9-minute highlights from Cricket Australia before this podcast just to kind of get a bit more of a reminder, because it was, I think it'd be fair to say it would be probably amongst the top 3 test matches of the modern era. I think would be fair to say of world cricket. And I think it was Ian Smith on comms after when Shamar Joseph took that final wicket and kind of mentioned those points and just said, inexperienced, young, written off, and all these words. And clearly you guys kind of copped a lot of flack in the build up to that series and during that series. So yeah, to beat Australia there and all that emotion comes out, and then to kind of, I guess, kind of stick 2 fingers up to all of these kind of Aussie journalists that have been kind of writing you guys off for the entire tour and the build up to it. It just must have made it extra sweet.
Oh, definitely. Just like we halfway through after the first test, one of our coaches sent a news report that I can't remember his name. That he said, to be honest, I don't know. I can't remember what he said, but it wasn't very nice things. There was 2 things he said that really drove us to. And he said we should never, these kind of teams should never come back to their shores and those kind of things. So for us, it was really motivating, and some of the boys took it personally. And you can see from our skipper at the end in the press conference, he definitely let them know that we heard, and he put his guns up and said, "Are we strong enough for you?" So it was really, really good to see, and to beat them. Words. I try to get the words still, but it's amazing.
What point during that game did you think you'd won it, or did you not until Hazelwood's off dolly went rocking back?
Yeah, I never thought we won it until Hazelwood got his off peg knocked out the ground. Steve Smith got down on one knee and rammed Alzari Joseph over my head for 6, and I said, "Boy, we're this close. Can you please give it to us, please?" And I was praying, I was begging, if I could have gone down on my knees and prayed, I would have. So yeah, for that, I never thought we won it. I don't think anybody did, but we had the belief that we could win it, which stuck with us until the end.
And Shamar Joseph, Joe, as well, like on one leg as well, wasn't he at that point? Didn't he have a broken toe?
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't think it was broken. It was just he got a really hard lick. So he got a few injections, and he was just running off of adrenaline.
I bet he's glad he got those injections and played such a massive part, as well as yourself, obviously scoring 79, I think, wasn't it, in the game? So that must have been good to feel as though you'd contributed, as well as obviously Shamar's 7-fer. How did you like celebrate afterwards? I imagine it was pretty messy in Brisbane, was it?
That is for sure.
That's classified.
I told Craig I'm getting drunk tonight. I was off of drinking for a little while. I gave myself a little break. I don't think I drank for that whole tour up until then. So I was waiting for a special moment to break the fast and get some drinks in, and definitely for sure that was a great night, and it was very messy.
Poor Brisbane. Keep some of those stories for someone else. They don't need to be aired, I don't think. But unbelievable, genuinely unbelievable. And as I say, I don't think I'd be underestimating it in saying that it would be kind of top 3 test matches of the modern era. I think the whole world were watching it at that point. I think England were playing at the same time, but I don't think anybody was watching that game. Everybody was watching what was going on in Brisbane, and it was incredible. How about balance then? This could well be a question that's far better asked kind of pro to pro. I think there's going to be a lot of maybe similarities, kind of sharing of advice here, and I'll just sit in the corner in the background and kind of just enjoy the chat.
Yeah, obviously Josh is a step ahead of me a little bit along the ladder in being an international cricketer. So his schedule's probably a little bit more packed than mine. But I guess I'm just interested in like how do you go about balancing the kind of demands of an international cricket calendar with ensuring that you're still getting time to wind down, refresh, spend time with your family,
Sit on the boat.
engage, sit on a boat, engage in your other interests, play a bit of football. Yeah. What does an average day look like for you?
It's really tough. Like to have that schedule of international cricketer. I don't think anybody sees the behind the scenes. I think we will know what it takes to just be a first class cricketer. It's still demanding. There's still so many tournaments a year, and you still have to travel. So I guess it's still along the same line. Just it's more international. But for me, I have been home. It's the longest I've been home in probably 2 or 3 years. I've been home for a month. I'll be home for a month and a half now, but the longest and most of the time I get home is like 3 weeks, for a month if I'm lucky. Sometimes I'm home for a few days and I'm gone again. But yeah, normal day at home would just be, once I'm off, is training in the morning, training in the evening, and trying to get whatever I can done in the morning, in between, from lunch to about 4 o'clock. Just get whatever I can get done. You're still on the clock. You're still getting paid to be fit. You're still getting paid to gym. So it's still like you still have a job. It's not like it's done when you come home. So yeah, I try to sneak in as much time as I can on the boat and with family and whatnot. Love to fish at times. So yeah, I try my best to get as many things that I like to do in, but it's not always going to happen because I'm still on demand to be fit. There's still testing. There's still stuff that I have to be ready for. So yeah, it's still like you're home, but you are still working basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in being a professional in any sport, you're, like you say, it's not as if you're contracted just for the season and the games that you're playing. There is always stuff to be done behind the scenes, and that's not necessarily what fans, spectators, and stuff think. They just think you rock up for a game and then,
Yeah.
oh, that's it. Right, we'll see them next week or in a month's time or whatever it is. However, the schedule works, but there's so much that goes on, and like you mentioned, the travel. Obviously, I imagine has quite a big impact on someone like yourself playing for the West Indies. And how does your training kind of work? Do you flick between the islands, or is there one in particular that you have like your main base at?
Yeah, the main base is in Antigua, but we don't go there very often because we have our franchises, which will be our first class setup. We'll have camps like once or twice a year, but they've set up our first class systems like franchises to be like the home for us. So I'm from Trinidad, so my franchise is Trinidad and Tobago Red Force. So I have to report to them, and then they report to West Indies my progress, and the West Indies will tell them what do I need, what should I be doing. They send my gym programs to me on the app. So I'm always checking in. They're always checking in with me. But yeah, the base is Antigua, but we most of the time when we're off, we're home.
And is that like the big difference there, Joe? Because I guess like obviously that international calendar is 12 months of the year, as you've just said, Josh. Like the longest time you usually get at home is 3 weeks, and then you're kind of working throughout that as well. But obviously, like Joe, you get through to the kind of end of September, and as a domestic cricketer, that's the season done at that point. I know you personally, you don't really take too many days off, and the amount of times you're kind of, oh yeah, I can do the podcast. I just need to finish up in the gym, and this is like kind of the day after the cricket season's finished. But is that the big difference? I guess you guys and girls in domestic cricket, you get those 2 months off, 6 weeks off when the season finishes.
Yeah, I feel like the men probably get a little bit longer off than we do currently, just because I guess the demands and everything that what their schedule demands of them is quite a lot heavier than what ours is like. But we pretty much get October off, or whenever our last game is of the season this year, providing we make like finals and stuff. It's the last week in September, so yeah, you get 5-6 weeks off, and then you'll be back in just to do some fitness stuff. Really, that's the main aim for November, December time. But I think for some of the men, they'll do like their gym and their running and stuff quite remotely if they're not going overseas to play in any franchise tournaments. And then I think some of them come back kind of after Christmas and start bowling and stuff. Obviously, you know what bowlers are like these days; they break down quite easily. So they got to kind of be ease back into it a little bit more, I think. But yeah, I can't imagine what it's like to be an international and flitting from one place to the next. And really having to savour that time that you do get at home. I'm sure obviously your family and stuff really appreciate the fact that you've been back for the longest time. You've been back home in a while.
I think like I'm kind of sat here at the moment as a bit of like a bit of a I don't really know what the technical term is, but kind of a fly on the wall type thing. Like I can't appreciate it. Like I have no idea as to the. Well, I do have a little bit of an idea, but I've never experienced it. I don't know what that means. Obviously, I guess my kind of downtime, I usually spend sat here kind of editing away, which isn't the most strenuous thing in the world. It's kind of the mouse moves maybe half an inch kind of forwards, half an inch sideways, whereas you guys and girls are kind of in the gym, setting the weights up. But later this year, I'm going to head out to Trinidad and spend some time with you, Josh, which will be really, really good fun. And you are going to put me through my paces on one of these days to kind of see how a village cricketer would cope with the strains and the pressures of being an international cricketer for a day. How do you think I'm going to go?
First of all, I wish you best of luck with that. I don't think you're going to go very well. The weights might have to be a little less as well. But, I'll take you up a few hills, a gym session. We'll see how you do. A few sprints. So make sure the hamstrings are warmed up. And we should be all right. You'll survive. That's the main thing.
I think, like, the fitness stuff is the bit that I'm, like, absolutely dreading. 100% dreading. Everything else, like, I'll absolutely love it. Like, I'd love the idea of kind of keeping wicket at the same time with you. I think is going to be hilariously good fun. Because I don't think I'm the worst village cricket, the worst village. Let me put my teeth in. The worst village wicket keeper in the world cricket.
Okay.
But dare I say, I think there are some serious levels and gaps between where I am and obviously where you are. So
you might be surprised.
Nah, I'm not going to be. Or I might be surprised just how big the gap is, Josh. I reckon.
That sounds like that's going to be very fun. And Dan, I can only assume that there will be plenty of content recorded while in Trinidad with Josh. So I look forward to seeing how that goes.
If I make it through the first day, yeah.
If you don't do your knee in again or whatever it was that you did when you were in America, that would be a nice place to start.
It would be ideal, wouldn't it? But it'd be good fun. Is that the dog on the boat, Josh, as well? Just for those listening, that obviously you can't see where Josh is. He is currently on his boat in the marina of whatever port it is in Trinidad. He's having a great time. Having an absolute great time. What about, like, if you look back and you kind of say this question might not actually be that relevant, to be honest with you, but there probably is kind of a meaning in there somewhere, and it might not be directly related to cricket, because we spoke about kind of your early life and aspirations, and you wanted to be a footballer rather than a cricketer. Kind of the question is like, what piece of advice would you give to 10-year-old Josh? And I guess that doesn't directly relate to where you are now.
I would tell myself to follow your dreams, because I wasn't the best at school and I tried really hard. I would like to say that, but I don't think I did enough. But just follow your dreams, because you never know where life is going to take you, because everybody's not going to be the same thing. Everybody's not going to be a doctor. Everyone's not going to be a cricketer. Everybody's not going to be a footballer. So give it your all, but it's not always going to work out. But always have a backup plan. I think that's one thing I never really had. So I was quite fortunate that cricket did work out, but if it didn't, I'm not sure where I would have been at the end of the day. So always have a backup plan, but follow your dreams.
The thing I find, like, really fascinating, and particularly with cricket outside of the UK, and this is obviously something that I can speak about, is the structure of amateur cricket that there is in the UK, and that doesn't really appear to exist elsewhere around the world. I think Australia has a fairly good kind of program, but I don't necessarily know how regularly kind of 80-year-old blokes are turning out in Australia against like 7 or 8-year-old kids. But like when I spent time in Barbados, I met a couple of the guys that would have played against England in the warm-ups against for their kind of T20 tour, and one of the guys, Kadeem Aline, is doing pretty well right now. He's absolutely every time I go onto social media, he's just bombing like 30 ball hundreds in various kind of T10 competitions. He's an absolute monster of a guy. But when I spoke to him at that point, really interestingly, it was kind of like, if cricket doesn't work for me in the next kind of 12 months, that's it.
Yeah, I was pretty much like that as well. There was an opportunity for me to play for Canada before I made West Indies team, but I told myself I'm gonna give myself 3 years to make the West Indies team, and then if I don't, then I will have a few more options open probably. So, but yeah, it took me a year and a bit, and thankfully, I was given the opportunity to represent West Indies. So, yeah, I don't think I tell every youngster, train hard, give it your all, do whatever you can, make sure you're ready for each opportunity. But not everyone is going to make it, unfortunately. Cricket is a cruel game. Cricket is very unforgiving. And if you don't treat the game right, it's definitely not going to treat you right. Bad karma in cricket is the worst thing in the world that you would like. You could be feeling the best, and all of a sudden you get a king pair. So, yeah, it's unforgiving and grueling, and it just makes you feel to rip your hair out. And but when you do succeed, it is the greatest feeling in the world. Um, I'm sure Joe can attest to that. When you do get a performance, you feel like you're on top of the world, but then that doesn't last very long, and then you get a bad one, and then you think about it all over again.
Yeah, it's such an accurate description of how cricket goes, and the highs and the lows are so, you don't want them to be too crushing either way, but the way that the game is set up, it always feels like that.
Yeah,
And you're so right, like you can never get too many steps ahead because Mother Cricket always holds the trump card, and it will come and
yeah,
get you somehow if you don't respect it and just take each day as it comes, I think. But you're absolutely right. I think ensuring that you're ready for any opportunity that comes your way is massively important. To take it with both hands, give it your best, and see where that gets you. Obviously, seems like you took to professional cricket and international cricket a bit like a duck to water. Obviously, you said that it was only your first professional season in what, 2018, and then you're making your Test debut like 2 years later. How's that worked out for you? Unbelievably. I guess you mentioned a bit earlier about the Brisbane Test, the hate and kind of the reporting in providing you with a bit of extra fire and motivation within the team. And I guess hearing and seeing that kind of not abuse, but negative language and just like bad press can be quite a challenge, can't it? Are there any other like challenges, whether like injuries or not getting selected for things that have kind of cropped up in your career, that have particularly affected you, or how you've gone about dealing with setbacks and challenges and things like that?
yeah, for sure. I've been very fortunate that I haven't been injured. Um, Knock on wood that it doesn't happen now, but yeah, I've been very lucky with not having any serious injuries. I dislocated my finger, but that was the last game of the season in 2023, and so I got a bit of time to recover from that. So before I was a professional, I did something to my knee, but that was so luckily it was before. But now I have not. I've been very lucky with injuries, but not being selected, being dropped, not being selected in the final 11, those things have obviously crept in, and it's really difficult, especially when you feel like you deserve to be there, or you deserve to be given a chance. That's I think that's what the most hurt comes from, because you know you deserve, you know you've been working hard, but it just didn't happen. So you think, why? What did I do wrong? What more can I do? But really and truly, you've done everything that you can to get that opportunity. So for me, it's just about whenever the opportunity comes, I'm looking at it like it might be my last. So I want to make sure that day I'm fully prepared, I'm ready, and whatever it comes at me, if I play, if I don't play, it's out of my control. I could control my warm up, I could control my preparation, and I think that's all I could control. Scoring runs, taking catches, stumping people out. That's all I can control. So let me control that and let the selectors do their job.
Obviously, we're kind of going to look ahead to this summer. The West Indies come over to the UK for a 3-match test tour at, where are we playing? Lords, Trent Bridge, Edgbaston. So 3 of like the kind of box office test grounds, really. I think Edgbaston will be hilariously funny. Trent Bridge is a proper test ground, and Lords is Lords. I was just looking back actually, and was the last time the West Indies played test cricket, was it in Australia?
Yes, it was. Yep.
that was the last time the West Indies played Test cricket. So it wasn't even, was it even that long
5.
ago?
When we do start in England, it would have been a 4 to 5 month gap, I believe, since we last played our last Test series. That was the end of January, was it? Yeah, when we played the last Test, and then July 10th, I believe, was the first Test in England.
Do you know? I just assumed there was going to be another Test tour in between. I don't know whether that's because I'm English and I look at kind of Test cricket and I go, "Oh, where are England playing next week?" Is that? I guess that's just down to. Well, I mean, I don't suspect you know kind of the direct answer to it, but I suppose if I asked you the question, would you like to play more Test cricket? The answer is probably going to be yes. But how come you think the West Indies don't get the tests in?
I can't put one answer to it. I guess it could be TV rights. It could mean many of things. It could be they would just play 2 Test series. I honestly believe the minimum should be 3 Test matches.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have an answer. I wish we played more Test cricket. I wish we had the opportunity to play at least 12 Test matches a year. I think we have 9 this year. We had 7 last year. We're one of the on the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to the Future Tours program. I think we have some of the least amount of Test cricket until 2028. I believe is when the next one starts. So it's unfortunate for us because I think our Test team we love playing Test cricket. Majority of us only play Test cricket, which is quite rare to see. Most of the other nations, most of their players are playing at least 2 formats. So when we do get the opportunity to play Test cricket, we relish it and we want to do our best.
Well, you've got an opportunity in not that long, is it? What is it? About 6 weeks, I reckon, until the 10th of July when the West Indies make the trip over to the UK. Jimmy put some news out. I don't necessarily know whether he wanted the news to go out or not, or whether it was his decision or wasn't. I don't know how much either of you two have kind of looked into that, but we won't start unpacking that one. Kemar Roach was commenting on it, wasn't he? Got interviewed pretty quickly after Anderson's retirement and kind of saying it'd be nice to kind of spoil his retirement party. Is that something that you guys have spoken about? Is it something that I guess you're going to struggle not to have been aware of it? But dare I say, going back to the Brisbane stuff, is it something that you've kind of communicated as a group and kind of gone, oh, do you know what? They've not been nasty to us this time, but geez, it'd be nice to upset the champagne here.
It would be really nice. I don't even think we need to talk about it. We just all have a mutual agreement in our minds, all of how we intertwine with each other. It doesn't need to be said. We want to go there and win the series. We would love to spoil Jimmy's party, win a Test match at Lord's. How nice would it be? You win in the Gabba and then you win in Lord's. I don't know. Somebody might retire by then, but that would be the pinnacle of anyone's career, I would say. But definitely. I agree. I want to spoil Jimmy's party. That would be nice. And I'm sure all of us do as well. But yeah, Jimmy is Jimmy. He's a legend at the end of the day. Full respect, and I just want to go there, play some hard cricket, and make sure that we come out on top in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And you would have played a little bit whilst you, as we said, we spoke about that COVID tour, and you would have played okay, we're talking about different levels here, but you would have spent summers over here playing club cricket as well. So you're not a stranger to these shores.
No, I'm not, but it's definitely different levels of cricket. I played Surrey Div 3, I think it was. And I can guarantee you that I won't be getting any of those dibbly-dobblers coming down at me in the Test match.
What were you doing in Div 3, Josh? Come on.
That was they called it the Kyron Pollard scholarship from my club. So I think I was 18, and this was an opportunity to go play. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know who I was going to play for. I didn't know anything. They just told me you're going to England for 4 or 5 months. You're gonna work, whatever, coaching or whatever. And that was it. That was just play cricket and have fun, learn to live by myself, cook my own food, wash my own clothes, and just play cricket.
Did you learn much from the Surrey Div 3 dibbly dobblers, or was it exclusively how to live by yourself and how to cook and clean?
Probably more off the field, but I think if you ask me to face Mitchell Stark or face a dibbly dobbler, I think I'll take Stark.
Oh, okay. You fancy Stark over a Dibbly Dobbler?
I mean, less reaction time, so less time to think. When the Divi I have too many. I can play 3 shots at once. When Stark is coming down, I just have to get the bat down or leave it alone.
Yeah, no, they haven't quite made their way through to Test cricket yet, have they? Which is
No,
nice, I think, for everybody involved. I don't know. You never know. Like with the Lord Slope, you prepare a real green one on a cloudy day. Kind of 45-year-old Jeff, who's played like Div 4, Div 5 club cricket for the last 30 years. I mean, could do all sorts on a day like that.
I'm gonna be begging Craig for the ball, so I can throw down a few Divi doublers myself. So that'll be a sight for sore eyes, I can guarantee.
I reckon there's something in there that could actually just be this. Everyone talking about reigniting Test match cricket.
Yeah.
I reckon if every Test player nation just had this one Jeff from Div 3 or whatever it is dropped into their team, like they have to play him as like a trump card in Test match cricket. Could you imagine? Absolute carnage.
That would be the worst thing to ever come into Test cricket.
Yeah, I think you might need to up people's private medical cover. I think if you were going to start kind of parachuting in clubbies into Test level cricket. I tell you what,
as Josh said, you go through 3 different shots in your head before they've even started their run up.
I tell you what, Josh, how about we test it in October?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I reckon I've got a spell in me.
Yeah, I've seen you bowl.
Yeah, we can.
If I don't get 36 in the over, I'll be very disappointed.
This is what I mean. This is what we're going to set up. This is the kind of the clinical trial here we're going to do for you, Joe.
Yeah, and I can speak from personal experience. Those little away drifters you were bowling at me in the tent about a couple of months ago. It's happening all sorts.
Wiley, that footage has never made it
Good luck,
public,
Josh.
Joe. I've saved you. I've saved your blushes there as well.
I'd say, Dan, bring a few Duke balls because you're not getting those down here.
I can't afford Dukes, mate. I don't get that much ad revenue on YouTube. Christ, I might be able to get some some 99p ones from Sports Direct, some nice Slazengers. So use your old bat and you'll be fine.
All right, nice.
Obviously, that test squad is yet to be announced. Everything goes to plan. What's the build up like? What's the kind of the preparation for a test tour for Josh Da Silva?
Yeah, that started a couple of weeks now. Always being ready for the call or for the opportunity that is needed. So I'm putting in my gym sessions, doing my batting, my wicket-keeping, getting everything in, making sure I'm fit and ready to get that call. And then when I do step on the plane, it's just to execute all of what I've been doing before.
First class?
I wish. Business. Yeah.
Okay, that's still pretty good. You got a nice lie down bed then.
It's amazing, yeah.
There's some big boys in that West Indies side. Like they need those lay flat beds.
Some of them need first class. They can't. The business is not enough.
Oh, it's going to be good. It's going to be a great series, and hopefully you're there. I think probably less likely is someone like me being allowed into Lords on Jimmy's retirement day on my media pass. I would imagine the world's press is going to be there, and some little old YouTuber is going to be a bit far down the pecking order. But hopefully our paths cross at some point over the summer, and we'll kind of make some content in the UK. I try and get some. Well, I'm trying to do photography, Josh, but I'm not very good at it. I'm trying. Yeah. I mean, I managed to get a few pictures. I don't know how you managed to stop that ball, Joe, up at the castle the other day, but I managed to capture it on film for you.
Pictures speak 1,000 words, but I'm like, you wouldn't think that had happened on a cricket pitch, would you?
No.
It's just kind of London bridging across the pitch, and somehow managed to stop the ball. But yeah,
you don't know how unlucky you are that photo was in focus.
Right. That was the one good.
There weren't many, I can tell you. There were not many. Future. Right. We've spoken about the kind of impending future, the one in the next 6 weeks. What about the kind of the future beyond that? What are your hopes and what are your aspirations looking forward?
Yeah, obviously we have a few test series this year, so to feature in all the games would be really nice. I've been playing test cricket now for, you just told me, 4 years, so it's been a long time. So I think it's time for me to be a bit more consistent with my runs, and I finished number 2 in the world with the wicket keeping last year, which was really good. Finished second to Alex Carey, who played double the games I did, so that was nice. So no, but moving forward, we just have a lot of cricket to play. CPL, try and take that opportunity with both hands, put my name up for hopefully some franchises or even West Indies T20 would be nice. But yeah, Test cricket is always the pinnacle, and I want to play for as long as I can. So kind of somewhat long-term future is to play, just be consistent in the Test arena and be there. And then long term is to try and play over 75 to 100 Test matches for West Indies. That would be ideal, but not sure. I may have to retire before I reach 100 because of the amount of Test cricket we play. So yeah, we'll see how that one goes.
No, they're yeah, sound and solid. You mentioned this is completely unscripted, but you mentioned Alex Carey there that you finished behind. He obviously got that extra dismissal at Lords, didn't he? That caused a little bit of controversy last.
I think
last
that's how
time.
he just got ahead of me with that one. Yeah,
I can only assume that that's probably the difference. But would it have crossed your mind
to do one of those?
Yeah.
It does cross my mind. Can I actually do it? I'm not too sure. Will I do it? Probably. I guess it all depends. It does cross my mind. When I do see the batsman out of his crease. I'm not sure I would do it in that manner where he tapped and then he walked out. Maybe if he's batting out of his crease and then he never came back into his crease, and maybe then. But yeah, I think if he's in his crease and he kind of shows that he's not going for a run, I don't think I'll take it like that.
Yeah, I tried it once in a club game. And going back to our kind of 45, 50-year-old friends that we spoke about earlier, I missed the stumps. That kind of shows how bad of an attempt it was. But the response from the batter was, if you're not good enough to stand up, you're not allowed to do that. I was like, well, no, this bloke's the quickest bloke in the club. Like, I'm not standing up to him, Mush. Like, you can't just wander out the crease whenever you want to.
Yeah. No, that's not fair. I don't think you can. But yeah, I'll try. I missed once as well, so you're not alone.
Yeah, I'd put it away. I haven't tried it since.
Yeah, obviously we've mentioned the boat. How long have you had that for? What do you actually do on it? Do you take it out? Like, do you ever go around the islands or just around Trinidad and different ports and stuff?
Well, it's quite a funny story with this boat. We had a smaller one before, and I kept nagging my dad to buy a bigger one with some rooms and bathrooms, and so we can go and sleep on the islands and whatnot. So he told me, all right, well, score your first Test 100 and then you're allowed to buy one. So it took me a few years, but eventually we actually went to look at this boat in Barbados when I was there for the Test series. So when you were there, Dan, we went and looked at this boat, and then 2 weeks later I scored a Test. Actually, a week later I scored a Test 100, and then a week after that I was on a boat back to Trinidad from Barbados, bringing it home.
What a story! That's so good. That reminds me, like, when you were younger and you'd be playing like age group cricket or whatever it was, and then mum or dad would be like, oh, I've seen this pair of trainers that I really want.
Yeah.
And your mum and dad's like, right, if you get like 5 wickets or you score a 50 or do something remarkable and win the game for your team, we'll buy you them. And
the only difference, I had to buy it.
Yeah, it's just the adult version of that.
Yeah.
Except you've done it within a week of going to look at the boat, and then got the Test match 100 and then taken the boat back home.
Yeah, that was
how
nice.
Good.
That was amazing. So yeah, we go down the islands. We spent a few nights. We actually, this Thursday, we're going to our sister island, Tobago, which is the better of the 2 islands for sure. A lot smaller, but take us about 6 hours to get there. Spend about 3 nights and come back home on Sunday. Hopefully not too sunburnt.
And then fishing. Fishing, is that a boat? Is that a boating activity? It feels like it should be. Do you know what? I've never scored a Test 100, so therefore I've never afforded myself the opportunity to buy a boat. So otherwise I'd have had one.
Maybe when you do get that 100, maybe you should maybe try and buy one. Do
you remember those? Do you remember those levels I spoke about earlier about the difference between Division 7 and Test cricket? Well, I think probably the bigger gap is probably between the murky brown waters of the English Channel, where my boat would be, compared to the crystal clear blue ones that you're going to be sailing around with in the Caribbean.
But what about Swansea? Swansea has some decent water.
Swansea?
Didn't everybody get like E. coli or something from the tap water down there the other day?
I just watch too much YouTube.
Hey, there's good editors down in Swansea. That's all I'll say. I want to go for it, Joe. Bearing in mind you've did all of this preparation, I don't want to continue to steal it for you.
Because I feel like I will never get to experience what this would be like. I'm going to ask you because I feel like this is something you would have experienced. So I only play T20 and 50 over cricket. So we don't play any long format cricket. Have never done. Red ball is foreign to me.
Yeah.
But I'm just intrigued. What is it like to be not out at the end of a day's play? And then how do you kind of reset your mindset to then turn up the next morning and crack back on with whether you're on 5 or you're on 55 to kick on? How do you go about that?
For me, I don't lose sleep over anything. Like I will go to sleep. Once I'm tired, I'm sleeping. Some boys, I know one boy who anytime he was overnight, he got out the next morning instantly. He did not have it in him to carry on. So he tried to get all his runs the day before. But for me, I've done it a few times. I've been on duck. I've been on 5. I've been on 55. I've been on 60. I've been a few times not out overnight. So it's just, I think the hardest thing is starting again, because I just tell myself you're on 0. You need to start over. It's a new day. You don't know what the ball is doing. You don't know what the pitch is doing again. You have to learn everything. It's new conditions, basically. And then after 5-10 overs, you're back in. Your eye is back in. So for me, it's a lot more difficult to field overnight than bat, because sometimes you're tired the next morning. You just don't want to go and run around. But yeah, batting overnight, I quite enjoy it. I try my best to reach the end of the day. Sometimes it doesn't work, but yeah, I try my best.
Does that give you the answer that you're hoping for?
Yeah. Wicked. Sounds like Josh is pretty laid back about it.
Yeah,
which I think is the way to be.
How stressed can you be when you just sign off work for the day and go and sit on a boat in the sunshine?
I know, it's kind of ironic because he's probably he's literally laid back now.
Genuinely, yeah.
Keep rubbing it in.
Unbelievable. Joe, unless you've got any other questions for Josh, that's been really, really good fun. I appreciate your time. It's been really interesting. It's been great to chat to you. It's been funny, which has been good. And yeah, look forward to seeing you over here in the summertime, obviously when that squad gets announced and your name's on it, hopefully. And even more so, I look forward to pretty much all of Trinidad, other than that day where I'm going to train like you.
No, for sure. My pleasure. I'm very happy. Thank you for the opportunity again. And yeah, I look forward to hopefully drilling you to the ground in Trinidad and making you work for that content. So yeah, thank you. Thanks, Joe and Dan. It's been a pleasure.
Lovely to meet you, Josh. Thank you.